I'm Tamika D. Mallory.
And it's your boy Mysonne the General.
We are your host of TMI.
Tamika and Mysonne's information, truth, motivation, and inspiration.
New name, new energy, but
same old us.
What's up, my son Lennon?
How you doing, Tamika?
I'm doing good. Another week. It was a long week, pretty eventful. At the end of the week, we all at Until Freedom celebrated the union, the recommitment of Reverend Stephen A. Green and Miss Brea Green.
The Greens.
Such a cool story that over 4 years ago, when we moved to Kentucky to fight for Breonna Taylor, Stephen was really responsible for helping us bring people into the movement, for going out and finding, those people who were gems in the city of Louisville, but weren't necessarily, folks that we would just walk up on the street, because there were people who you could just walk up to on the street and they were automatically activated. But Brea and some other young people were doing a great job of organizing and, holding activities and really just being out there fighting for Breonna, protesting, and also educating the community. And of course, in true Stephen Green fashion, he found the group, the organization that she was with, and brought them to meet with us. And out of that came love. The two of them, started dating shortly afterwards. And then next thing you know, we looked up and they were married. And this was 1 year later, where they have recommitted and held a big ceremony that all of us were able to attend. And then of course the parties, they party like we party. We know how to party. So it was really a fabulous occasion. It's so good to know that, out of, unfortunately, the death of Breonna Taylor came a few really, really good things. And it's funny because I've had that conversation with Tamika Palmer, Breonna's mother, in the past, that, one day she and I were just, we had been having us wine and we were just talking, and she was crying and just going through her emotions, which, unfortunately happens often. And she said, I said to her, there have been some beautiful things to come from even this tragic loss of your daughter. And she was like, it has, those things, that's some of the stuff that she reflects on when she gets sad. And so one of them is how Brea and Stephen met. And out of that came love. The two of them fell in love and now they're married. And so their celebration, their good party afterwards this past weekend was really special.
It was a beautiful event. Shout out to Brea and Stephen. I just love their energy because they have this youthfulness and they have this professionalism that they balance. You know that Stephen is an awesome preacher, and Brea is very intelligent, and she does a lot of work with a lot of women's groups that I see her organize a lot of events as that well. But when it's time to party, they party. So I just love the dynamic that they have, and I'm wishing them the best. Like you said, the parties were amazing. The parties were dope, and like you said, them coming out of Breonna Taylor. Like every time I look at them, I'm like, wow, this. I remember Stephen coming to our Airbnb with Brea, and we were all just sitting at a table organizing, and the next thing you know, now this is his wife. So Breonna Taylor spawned and evoked, a lot of energy that we want to be sad because we lost her, but we have to acknowledge, the things, even government officials who've been elected, and just the way the energy in Louisville shifted. They became a lot more unified, and seeing people just step into their light, to say. So shout out to them. It was my son's birthday this past week, so the festivities rolled on with him. Yesterday we played laser tag, which was something I'd never done before, but they beat us like crazy, him and his friends, and his brother, they good at these games. You know, they sit on the games all day. So I'm running around and they just keep killing me. And I'm like, why can't I shoot nobody? You know, they're getting 13 and 14 kills and I'm getting one. So I'll never live that down. So happy
That's
birthday to
good.
him, his 13th birthday.
That's awesome. Awesome. Happy birthday. And then I guess the big one for me is that I took my granddaughter to her first day in school. I call it daycare, but clearly this is not daycare anymore. This is actual school. They have books. They've got a setup. They have to learn for certain points of the day. When I was little, daycare was literally you go to the babysitter. Maybe it was in a center, but for the most part, it was at somebody's house. This stuff is the technology. Homegirl just walked right up in there like it's not a big deal. Like, what's up? Where's everything at? And they have cameras where they can roll back the camera of any time of day. The cameras are in every location. When I walked up, her parents were already there with her. I walked up and they have a code that you have to put in at the door. I mean, we literally did not have any of that stuff in the
Not at all.
daycare back in the days, right? Like we just didn't have it. It
There
just was
wasn't
a,
no cameras. There wasn't no cameras in daycares I went to.
oh no. Cameras, definitely none. Maybe they kept the door locked, but you have a code that you punch in that is it is customized for each person so they know the time of entry in and out for everybody that's associated with a particular code. You've got one section that has all the babies and I don't know if they call it an infirmary. That's not an infirmary. I don't know. A nursery. Yep, nursery for little teeny babies. They got this class that I said this is very high level professional. And I think the thing that's funny is that the kids were prepared like to go and meet and talk all day and get the instructions. As soon as I got there about 3 minutes after them, and the director was like, we got it. See, and don't leave a pacifier because that's over as of today. Whoa. So, but she seemed like she's gonna do fine. The only thing about Blair is that when you tell her to do something, I don't know exactly how that's gonna work out. So we have, like I said, the weekend and the beginning of this week is starting out really good, but there's a lot of work to be done. We're going to be announcing more about our Project Freedom, which will be rolling out all throughout the week, where we will be presenting to the world sort of our concept for what we believe the counter of Project 2025 is, that is in favor of us as people who are Black folks, brown folks, and also marginalized and vulnerable communities. I want to talk about something later on in terms of this idea of like when you lift Black people, what happens. But I do think, or I think it was important for us to take the work that we've been doing with the people we've been working with who are on specific issues. For us, one thing that the Women's March did teach me is about intersectional movement building, right? I was not familiar with that term in a movement space, although of course we know what intersection means in the concept of intersection, but learning about intersectionality in movement spaces came during the time of the Women's March. And it was really a lifesaver for me because I learned and began to understand that even though one issue is my issue and I'm super committed to it, it does not mean that I can't make space for other people's issues. And I think that helped me to expand the people who are around me and the types of folks that I work with and talk to every day. The beauty of, I said our Project Freedom a few moments ago, but that's actually the website, ourprojectfreedom.com. The name of it, the platform is Project Freedom. And I think the beauty of Project Freedom is just that. So many different groups. We've got gun violence awareness and prevention folks who deal with policy there. We've got people who actually do mobilizing on the ground for a lot of issues, but specifically getting people to the polls and dealing with voter suppression. We've got folks that deal with anti-war advocacy. We've got people who, of course, support Palestinian rights. and looking at how to get a ceasefire in Gaza immediately. We've got policy folks that deal with education. We have folks that are in politics in general. So this is a broad base of folks. And now when we open this up, we're going to be bringing in the voices of so many other individuals who have their own expertise. And so if you have the time, go to ourprojectfreedom.com. That's ourprojectfreedom.com to learn more about how we see America, not through the lens of Project 2025, where we understand the dangers, but through the lens of the people, looking at legislation that's already lingering. It's already out there. We've already committed that these policies need to be passed. And we sort of compiled them and brought them back together, freshened them up, and said, this is how we can strengthen them, and this is how we can pass them to alleviate some of the suffering, but also to help add and generate more success and power among our community. So ourprojectfreedom.com.
We definitely need that, man, because there's so much misinformation. Like there's a misinformation campaign that is online, that I constantly go to my page and I just laugh now because I realize it. I seen Plies write something on his page the other day that we ain't fooled, that all these ain't black people that y'all got on here. These are some bots that y'all done sent here, and we know it. And I'm just so, I laugh at it now because I put a post up that they don't like. They send 100 people at a time to try to overload it with just lies and just stupidity. So I'm really been intentional about stopping the misinformation, about educating and getting real information and getting the facts, and being able to fact check things. I went to a meeting, pretty much kind of like a private meeting, but not so private, but it was just black men, couple of Hispanics just in a room about misinformation and about how do we stop the misinformation in our community? What is the truth? And there was a lot of different views, definitely talking about this election and what it means and what they think happened and what they think a person did or what they know a person did and why a person should be with this person or why a person isn't with that person. So it was very helpful. It was a strong dialogue with a lot of strong individuals I know. Shout out to my brother, James McMillan, who invited me to the meeting, but it was a lot of very well-known people in the community, within the industry of music industry, within just different industries. So, I think that those are the conversations in the rooms that we need to be having at this time, because the things that I read online, the sound bite, the clickbait, the just anything so you can get your narrative pushed is just terrible, and knowing that a lot of people don't do the research, don't do the work that it takes to actually get real information, you realize that people are being misinformed every day and they grabbing onto it. So I have conversations with people and they come to me and ask me, so what about such and such? And such and such did this. And I'm like, that's not actual facts. And then I show them and they go, well, but such and such said this. And then I show them and they be like, oh, I ain't even know. And it's like, damn, it's too many of us that just don't know. So I really want to be just intentional about making sure that real knowledge and real information and the true information that you can actual fact check and see is out there.
Yeah, the thing about what you're saying is so important. That is so important. Is it also helps us to brush up on our skills, making sure that we're constantly reading and finding new information. Because as I have been listening to Reese Colbert, who is an expert on a lot of political things, but she specifically has followed Kamala Harris for a while and compiled lots of facts, and she's all around the internet and around the country dispelling myths about Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris. As I've been listening to her, and then I've been reading the things that she's directing me to, I find other things because once you become a reader, once you become someone that is interested in knowledge and information, you automatically will continue to go forward in what you're learning so that you can pick up the next point, right? So that you can pick up the nuance and the context for which something is buried. So I was looking at a clip the other day, and I know this individual, she's attacked me several times on the internet. So, I know her. This clip had pieces of words that Kamala Harris has said,
Yeah,
right?
word salad.
Like, look,
It's word salad that they cut different pieces, they splice it and they put another thing, and it just
right,
creates a narrative and they run with
right.
that.
Right. And the sad part about it is that this is a person who prides herself on being realer than everybody else. She's the realist. Like, nobody is more real than her. Everybody else is fake. Not everybody, but there's a number of us that she claims we're fake. And yet you're actually promoting things that's not true and using little clips in order to make a point about your position on someone, when I feel like if you do your actual research, right, you can find things about anyone, even a good person, even the person that you love, even your grandmama and your mama. If you do real research, you can actually bring forth factual information that helps to prove your point about why you don't trust or believe in a particular individual. You don't have to make up lies in order to make your point. And that was one of the reasons why the whole Project 2025 was sitting on me. It wasn't so much how the dangers of it, because we know that we understand. But what I was really sitting with was the idea that people were trying to make it worse when it was already bad. It didn't need, Project 2025 does not need hyperbole. It does not need people to come up with what they think is possible or what they think it means plus some. It is very clear, and it's very clear the mindset of the individuals who developed it. And so I just think that, to your point, it forces us to, as leaders, be much more intentional about the information that we're taking in. And it also forces me to stop posting things. And I have done that, definitely have done that, to stop posting things without really knowing the full context of it as well. And I'm not saying if I see a video of a man being killed or beaten by the police or something like that, or a woman or whomever, that I would not share that information and call for us to learn more, to know more. More than likely, I've already talked to somebody, or I kind of know the backstory. But the clips of people's words has happened to me, and so I'm just really, really careful about that. But I think you're right that the misinformation piece is important. It's happening. And I think our Project Freedom, I'm not sure that it so much deals with misinformation, which it does, because it really kind of dispels the myth that there are no plans, that nobody has any. And also another thing that it dispels is this idea that Kamala Harris does not support legislation that is driven towards helping majority Black folks, right? Like the gun violence intervention and prevention work, it started out with people trying to lobby for mass shootings, which are generally not they don't classify the shootings that happen in our community as mass shootings. However, now, right, because of the work that Pastor McBride and Erica Ford and a number of other individuals have done, it is being classified that way. And there's a complete set aside in the gun violence prevention resources coming out of the federal government that is for our communities. It is specifically targeting our communities where violence and violent shootings happen the most. And so a lot of the legislation that is in this in the Project Freedom platform is things that the vice president has already signed on to. Some of it she's a co-sponsor of. Other bills she's been very supportive of. Reparations, people say she doesn't support reparations. That's a lie. So now why it's necessary for us to bring this, what they say, bump it up in your inbox, is because we need to make sure there's still a commitment, and we want to push her on her being able to say that I'm still committed to these things, that I have not sort of changed or walked away from it because it's not politically expedient, and that I'm committed to making much of what is in these particular bills happen. At least I'm going to be a big advocate for it. So there's a lot of work to be done. I want folks to check out our projectfreedom.com, and you can come to TMI_show and send us a note and let us know where you see some things that need to be strengthened. There may be something in your local community that we don't even know about that we should be informed, so that we can look at the best ways to make it a part of the 4 pillars of the policy platform. So my thought of the day, speaking of misinformation, I don't know if this goes in the same bucket, but I will tell you that I'm really like, wow, the scammer thing is like really crazy, right? On the surface, when people say that somebody is a scammer or someone or people have been scamming, I'm not sure that it connects with us, right? Like sometimes I feel like when people say or talk about scammers, you kind of think about just like some free money that's just sitting there that folks are taking, or handbags or something, like that. But there are real people behind these situations and that are victims of this behavior. And I was looking at a news article the other day where a man says that hundreds of thousands of dollars were stolen, and he's a lawyer, and it was stolen from him because he believed that he was a part of some operation to catch scammers. So somebody scammed him into believing that he was helping to catch other people, and as a lawyer, still, he did not know or wasn't paying attention, and therefore his money was basically taken. Then, there was another incident where a woman is saying that this man that she was married to, he basically married her and was draining her bank account, took all of her life savings, and emptied her out. And then, that's it. He's off on to the next thing. And it came to me as my thought of the day that we have to really look out for the elders and the people in our lives that we know are not as informed, and they don't have the, because I do know when you go on Cash App or whatever, it tells you scamming is at its all-time high. Don't do this, that, and the third. But like my parents, they don't Cash App. They don't do any of that because they know that they are unaware of, certain things. They know that. However, my mom got a phone call from somebody one day who was telling her, like, we're trying to check your social security number because there's been fraud. And she's like giving the person the information, and it doesn't dawn on her for a while that, wait a minute, I should not be having this conversation. So that just tells me that, we're at a place where we have to do a lot of educating for ourselves. And if your family members, your parents or other people, they don't go to like a community center or somewhere every day that, they have these conversations, they may miss it. They may not even watch the news. I know a lot of people that do not watch the news. They hate it. It's just too much for them. And so what do you do to get that information out there? And I think that as a part of the work that we do, we also need to be informing our communities about how they could lose their life savings, they could lose their homes, right? You still have people like Queen Afua fighting for her home in Brooklyn as these people try to take her home from her. I mean, there's so many ways that people are being scammed and being being used and having things taken from them that belong to them. And I think it's just an important conversation for us to be having.
I think it's a very important conversation. A lot of, if you watch this movie called, I think it's The Bee, something to Be, and Felicia Rashad stars in it, and she's an older lady, and somebody scams her. They call her and she's holding like $2 million for a school. She's an old retired teacher, and she's holding this money, and they scam her, take all the money on her account with some telling her, just give us the passcode, we're gonna fix your bank account and this and that, and they scam her. And I see those things happen. Like I've almost fell for it. Like they've called me and be like, hey, something's going wrong with your Chase account, boom, somebody's scamming it. Is this your thing? And you be like, what? And then you call, and then I had to, in the middle of it, I'm like, what the fuck am I even doing? You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm a lot more technologically savvy than most of our elders, and they almost got me with it. So we have to really be intentional about that. I think as some of us that are a little younger, we need to be talking to our
Mhm.
elders about it. Make sure that we listen.
Mhm.
Don't care when nobody call you about no number. Don't give nobody no numbers, no
Don't
pass,
give them your numbers. Yeah.
nothing.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that's something that we need to do because
And it looks good. Like some
yeah,
of the stuff that they send you, like it really looks good. Sometimes I'll get stuff Amazon, such and such.com, but if you don't open it, you don't know. And it'll be like click here or do this or whatever, your package, UPS. And when you look at the addresses, the ending of it, you know that it's not official. So like they really and you know what's interesting is every time I send something via UPS, I started getting the scamming, not UPS, USPS, United States Postal Service. Whenever I send something from them, I start getting notifications that my package is delayed because of X, Y, and Z. And and when I look at it, I know that it's a fake account. But how they know that I've sent something, like for instance, I didn't send anything last week. I didn't get anything last week. But if I do this week, in a couple of days, I start getting stuff. So that means that somehow the system knows that you have sent something. I get them for FedEx sometimes. And then they start reaching out to you with these codes. And when people say, well, it's fake bots, I always tell people that bots are controlled by humans. There's no such thing as a bot system that just operates on its own. Maybe it goes out and does the work on its own and multiplies, and it could do, millions more than one person. But somebody has to figure out the coding for it, figure out what they're trying to do, figure out the scam to get the information. You sent something on USPS, you sent something FedEx. They have to be able to figure that out first so that they can tell the system what it's looking for and what they're trying to do. So no matter what, there's still somebody at the helm of at the set off end of making this stuff happen. And it's actually pretty scary. I never forget, I think I've told the story on here before, that a pastor and his wife was telling me one time that the pastor is sitting in the house. It's a Sunday afternoon. He's trying to rest. And his wife is flying back and forth in the house, going back, got her shoes on. Somebody rang the doorbell and she's flying back and forth in the house. He's thinking it's possibly a delivery or something like that. So he's not really paying no attention. Plus, men, y'all be like, these women, who knows what she's doing? So, whatever. So after a while, she was hustling so hard back and forth that he stopped, and she is passing him. So he's sitting there and she's not telling him what she's doing, not because she's keeping it a secret, but because the situation at the door is so serious that she's got to make it happen and then tell him about it later. So eventually he says to her, what are you doing? Like, who is that? And what's going on? And she's like, our grandson is locked up and I have to give this man $5,000 right now so that he could go and get him. And I'm going to go with him. We got to go get the money. We need to have cash to go to the bail bondsman. He's a bail person. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? What man? And she's collecting money around the house and about to go to the ATM to get the rest of the cash to go to the bail bondsman. And she did know, which is true, that you need cash when you go to most of these bail bonds people. So she knew that. So that wasn't like a lie, right? Like that sounded right because you do got to have cash when you go to bail bondsman. So the bail bondsman is showing up telling her your grandson has been arrested and he couldn't reach you. So he sent me over here to get the money to go bail him out. And she was actually getting their money in their household together to give to this man without her husband. And these are people, they are pastor and first lady of a church. These people are smart. She's a studied woman, but her emotions took over her mind.
Yeah, I'm telling you, these scammers, they know how to pull at the heartstrings, man. You talk about somebody kids and their grandkids,
Yeah.
and immediately they trying to figure it out. What's going on? How we gonna do it? And it has to be someone who's a little more level that step back and be like, whoa, whoa. It's just like Kamala. You remember you told me the story how you went out there and they got you for your money. It got to be somebody that, because every time they walk up to me, I see people getting them, and then they be like, "Yo, you want to get?" I'm like, "Bro, I'm from New York. Like, I've been in Harlem, I've been in the Bronx." But they say, "All right," because they know you can't run that game with me. I've been here.
No.
Too. You know what I'm saying? So
$20 just gone.
gone in seconds, and they run. They act like they lost 200, and they be like, "Yo, you can win the next 200. Come on, all you gotta do is put $20 right here. Just put it here, here." Here, oh, you won. They act like you won before you pick it. Here, you won. You be like, no, no, no. Like, here, win, bet. Then they
That's
tear
been
your
going
ass
on a
up.
long time, long time. I didn't even know they still played that game.
Oh, they play.
Anyway,
So I just have this, a question for you. As an AKA, you hear this whole Kamala's not black. Kamala's not black. She ain't black. She ain't black. This, and that. And then, online, people are like, it don't matter that she went to HBCU, and it don't matter that she's an AKA. As an AKA, of your knowledge, are there non-black women who are AKAs?
absolutely not. So when you look at our charter or the documents that you see online about, about the sorority, it says that they do not discriminate. That's what it says. And I would say they don't discriminate. But I have never in my life, not one time, have I ever met a white woman or any other type of woman, or at least someone that does not have black in them and identify with being black, as a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha or any of the Divine Nine. I'm not saying that they're not there. I'm sure that there's probably a white person or two, or some other a person who identifies with a different race. I'm sure that there's one or two that exist in different places, but I can tell you that Kamala Harris is not one of them. First of all, it's not a comfortable space for people who are not black, if you ask me. I know I wouldn't want to be, because everything about how we operate, everything about how we started, with black women at Howard University starting this sorority, and in other spaces of the Divine Nine, still black folks starting these institutions. I've not ever experienced anything blacker. It is a place where I bring my entire self, where the culture, the identity, the research that we do, the conversations we have, all of it is very, very clear to me that if you are in the sorority and you pledged and you went through the process, it is 99% likely that you identify as being black. And also to go to an HBCU, and it's not like Kamala Harris is a honorary member, because see, that's very different, right? I mean, when you think about Alicia Keys, here she is a woman whose mother is white, but she identifies as black. She is a black father, white mother. She identifies as black, right? She is an honorary member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, right? And therefore, someone could say, which she's, very much so into it. And we were just talking the other day, and she's like, I'm getting even more excited about being a part of this sisterhood, right? And so this is prior to Kamala Harris being announced as the nominee. So she was already on the phone. We was just kicking it about, like, what did you do to speak? And I was like, oh, I was around some sorority sisters. She's like, you know what? I've been talking to some of my sisters, some of the people on her line. And she's like, I'm even more excited. Like, we're talking about doing some really good things together. But again, she's honorary. Jada Pinkett Smith is an honorary member. So you can look at people like them and say, well, they're honorary. And so maybe, they don't identify as much with the culture. They have to kind of learn it. No, she pledged, right? So Kamala Harris pledged. She was on a line. And I think for a lot of people who don't understand, I promise you that there's almost no member of the Divine Nine, even if they do not like Kamala Harris, they don't support her, they have issues with her. I promise you, you will not find one. Maybe, you'll find some fringe person, because of course we never like to speak in absolutes, but it will be very hard to find someone who will say that after she pledged to get into Alpha Kappa Alpha, she doesn't consider herself to be Black. That's impossible. But you know what the big thing is, and the reason, and my answer to why I know that she considers herself Black and has always done so, is because I've met her. A lot of people who are talking, people who have so much to say about what she believes in and how she is and who she is, they have no idea about anything. They don't know her. They've never seen her. They have no idea. In fact, there are tapes, there's recordings, because I have received a number of them from people who are like, why do they keep saying that she doesn't identify as being Black when she said this and she said that, and she went to HBCU and she's an Alpha Kappa Alpha and she's done all these things. And it's funny, it's like, you got to do all that. And yes, of course she identifies with her Indian heritage. Of course she does.
I don't
Why
understand.
wouldn't she?
I don't understand why people see that as something wrong. Like if you are a multiracial individual, if you have Indian heritage and you have Jamaican heritage, why would you just ignore the heritage that is your part of your culture? Like why would you not say that? And if in spaces, and when they talk about being an Indian, and you're the first Indian in that space, why would you not gravitate to that and say, yes, I'm the first person of Indian descent to reach that space?
And that's a question, like, I don't know, because I haven't heard it, but I would love to hear where she said she's Indian.
No, she said that I'm of Indian descent. She was speaking.
I'm of Indian descent. Yeah,
she was
that's
speaking
true.
into an Indian group, and she said, "I'm proud to be one of the first people of Indian descent to reach this plateau." And I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't think that means that you're denying that you're Black, that you don't want to be Black, that you don't gravitate to being Black. She was talking to the girl, the Indian girl Mindy, and on her show, the cooking show. And Mindy is an Indian girl, and she was talking about how, yes, you look like a lot of people on my mother's sisters and all these things. Yeah, and she's talking about the recipes her mother used, and she was talking about things that happened a part of her Indian culture, and she identified with it. And I don't think it's anything wrong with that.
No.
When you are multicultural, multiracial individuals, is nothing wrong with embracing both parts of yourself. But when you live your life like a Black woman every day, people can't take that away from you, and people want you to be what they want you to be. And I think it's so unfortunate that people like her constantly have to prove her Blackness. I went back to the interview that she did on the Breakfast Club 5 years ago. When she was doing when she was on the presidential campaign, and she was just talking about that. And Charlamagne was asking her, she's like, I don't care what people think. Like, you think I've heard it all before. I don't, at this point, I'm not trying to prove my Blackness to somebody. I've been Black, I am Black, and I'm gonna die Black. And that's just what it is. And whether somebody likes it or not, it doesn't matter. So it's just, I was asking that question because I keep hearing, oh, you can be this and that. And I've never seen any member of the,
I mean, they may be there, like I said.
I'm just trying to say, I have never heard somebody say they was of the divine. I'm saying
the culture again is very strong. In fact, you know what? I did meet a white guy not long ago who was I think he was Kappa, I believe. I might be wrong about that. Don't come for me, Kappas. But I think he was. And, and he was blended with the group. And I saw him doing, their stepping and whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. That was, for me, it was like, oh, like it wasn't a natural thought. It wasn't a natural feeling. It was like, oh, okay, I'm not upset about it, but it's not the norm. And I think, like you said, the fact that she has to prove that she's Black, she is not the only person who has had to go through this, because when I think about young kids in schools, right? That meanness that exists, where just some miserable people who are very mean, that happens a lot, right? Where a kid comes to school and they're too light for some people, so they're not Black enough. They're too dark for other people, so they don't fit into the light skin club. And it's like a constant thing where they're feeling like they don't really belong anywhere. But I think she reaffirmed for us, for herself, more so for herself than for us, her Blackness by attending an HBCU. She could have gone anywhere that she wanted to go, right? But she attended an HBCU, and then she sought out a sorority that is a
Exemplifies
sorority that,
Black.
well, yeah, exemplifies is a good word, but I want to say something else. She sought out a sorority that exalts Black excellence. Like, that is what it's all about, is lifting us up as women and displaying to the world that we're all different sizes, shapes. We come from political backgrounds, economic backgrounds, activist Black backgrounds. We come from business. We come from education. We come from so many different places, but these are beautiful, prestigious women, and particularly Black women. And so, and again, I'm say this and I'm done. I know Kamala Harris. There are people who are like, I met with her and she said this and I said that, and whatever interaction she's had with certain individuals, that's cool. I've actually been in space with this woman. I have talked to her. I've been in space with her more than one time, right? I have been at fundraisers where, we raised money for her in the past. I have sat in rooms. She is Black. Period. That's it. So if there's a culture for Black people that I know that I have, right? The vernacular, the way that I just present, and I've been in rooms where it was mixed company. It's not like I was in only rooms that were Black spaces with Vice President Harris. I've been in rooms where it was, about issues that there were more than just Black people that were interest groups in that area. And she always represented a Black woman to me. And I've heard her say out of her mouth that as a Black woman, I understand. And that's been in contentious conversations sometimes when she's like, listen, as a Black woman, I understand what you all are saying. I'm working through XYZ or whatever her perspective may be. So I just think it's whack. But at the same time, to your point earlier, there's a lot of work. I decided, my son, I'm not fighting anybody. You can fight. That's what you like to do. You are a person who knows how to debate and fight and go at it. I'm not doing it. So that's it. If you with us and you need access to the ballots, so you need to get there. You need the voting rolls not to have purged your name, or you need, whatever you need to be able to do what you have to do because you want to see a greater future for us. And then you want to be a part of a movement that fights, whether it's Kamala Harris or whoever the hell it is afterwards. I'm open. I'm there to organize you. If you need information, the correct information, I'm there. But if you think that I'm finna travel this country or go out talking to people trying to force them and convince them, not doing it. Sorry, not even my own family.
Oh no, I'm not. My thing is, I'm just like I told you, I've taken on the project of stopping misinformation. It is a thing for me. I've watched us suffer from it. I watched people come online and say shit about us and say shit about people we knew, and there's nobody to combat those lies with facts, and nobody does it, and they just let it go, and they just let it go, and then it becomes facts to people. So every day I still hear dumb shit. So I've taken on it, like, I'm just not gonna let you sit in my face and say shit that I know that's not true. I'm gonna say, hey, that's not true. You know, I'm just gonna say it's not true.
I mean, I might do that, but I wasn't even so much talking about that. I just know how when we go out and we knock on doors and we organize people, you guys sometimes will get into heated arguments with folks and be, really going back and forth. I don't have it. I don't have it. I'm being honest. Like, I don't have it anymore. We've been in this movement for different time spans. I've been doing this for almost 30 years. I've lost a lot of friends, people that I love because our political ideology did not align. And I just decided that I'm just not going to do much of that. Even the ones that I watch promote Trump and say they be spreading misinformation themselves. I might say one or two lines, but when they write back to me trying to engage me, I don't even do it because I'm just not. Like, I'm just going to make sure that I place a comment here that lets people know that if you want real information, you should go check so-and-so. That's it. That's all I'm going to do.
I mean, I get it. It makes sense. I've taken a different position. I'm just going to always just speak truth to power because there's so much misinformation that, every now and then I'm going to post something. It's going to ruffle feathers, but I don't care what you think about what I think. I say that all the time. Your opinion of my opinion is your business. I really don't give a fuck. If you can take my opinion and show that my opinion is a lie or it lacks factual, and then there could be a conversation. But the fact that you just don't agree with what I'm saying or you have a different position, you need to put that shit on your page because I don't care whether you agree. Like, people get mad at me for saying I'm voting for black people because they black. I don't need no other reason. You might need another reason. You might feel like, oh, that's not smart. Okay, that's not smart for you. It's smart for me because I've watched white people do things for white people just because they white the whole time I've been in America. I watch white privilege and white, nepotism and all of that shit. I watched that happen throughout my life. So to make me feel bad for wanting to see black people succeed and get in positions of power and utilize the little bit of voice and vote and whatever I have to do so, you can't make me feel bad for that. There's nothing that anybody in the world can say that make me feel like I'm bad or wrong. So that's what it is.
But I would say that, and I told you this, that not all Black people need to be governing our communities, right? And so if you have an opportunity to choose between a white person that actually is committed, that's doing good work, that's in the movement, that wants to see police reform, that would not let officers just punch and knock down, people, and then there's a Black person that's all for stop and frisk and all for all the things.
If it ain't Tim Scott, if it ain't Candace Owens, it ain't Daniel Cameron. If it ain't that, I'm with the black people. Because
I hear you, but again, it doesn't have to be as severe as a Tim Scott and all of these people. There are folks that we see every day in our communities that are Black people that are not worth the I was getting ready to say something crazy, but they're not worth the dirt they walk on. They're just not, right? And then there are some white people that are super committed to the work. It's like if Julianne Hoffenberg, who was a white woman that we worked very closely with, if she was running for office against, and I won't say names because people will get upset, but another Black person in our community, I'm definitely going to choose her. I'm not going to just choose the Black person just because they're Black. So I think there has to be context surrounding that, because I want to vote for who I think is going to actually make the best change and the best situation for my community.
I hear what you're saying, and that makes sense in the context of what you're saying, right? But what I'm trying to say is, if it's Julianne Hoffenberg, right, and it's other Black people within this community, right, that I know that do the same work as Julianne Hoffenberg, as much as I love Julianne Hoffenberg, I understand that the dynamics of this community, Julianne Hoffenberg doesn't understand it the same way that most of the Black women that I know that would actually be running for office do. I know that she loves Black people. I know that she cares for Black people, but the dynamics and growing up in this community and dealing with the poverty and shit that had to go in this community, I know that that's not her reality. So
I get that.
So listen what I'm saying. So if the choices come between those type of Black women, I love Jules and I want her to, but I understand the dynamics of what's going on. And I also understand the dynamics of America and understand that 9 times out of 10, the average white person that sees Jules is going to vote for her just because she's white. And that's just a reality that we're dealing with in America. So I understand that in these situations, the black person is always going to come from behind. It's always starting at a lower place. Don't even matter what the qualifications they have. So these are realities that I'm dealing with. So when I'm talking about I'm voting for everybody black, if it's a ticket, especially, and I said especially if it's some 70-year-old white man, 80-year-old white man, there's no way that I'm ever voting for an 80-year-old white man over anybody black again. That's just never going to happen. In the
Well,
history of, I'm
but
talking about me.
I get what you're saying, but I think that, as leaders, we have to be very careful with how we present information. And so what I hear you saying makes sense, but that's why we're always discussing the use of the word everybody, right? Because everybody black does not deserve your vote. Everybody of anything is not good for our people. I think that the better thing to say is I'm looking for the best black person in every situation. That I can agree with. But to say that we're just voting for everybody black, knowing that there are people who could be more qualified from other communities, that does not make sense. Because like I said, even people in our community don't deserve our vote the way that some people from outside the community may. They
Can I
just
ask you a
don't.
question? How many times has somebody that deserved our vote that was black didn't win to somebody that didn't deserve it that was white? How many times has that happened?
How many times has somebody, go ahead, who deserves
somebody who deserved our vote that was black, that was qualified, that was way more qualified than the white person, didn't get voted in, right? And lost just because the white people said, I'm voting for the white person. How many
well, that
times?
happens often. That happens often.
So what I'm
But
trying to say, is you playing by a rule that nobody else is playing by. And that's why we keep losing. Because you having this, I'm sitting here and I'm going to vote for the most qualified, and that shit is cool. The thing is this: if we have two candidates, right, and they both good candidates, or both of them are bad candidates, I'm going with the black bad. If I have to choose, I'm going. If they both got some fucked up shit, I'm going with the white person. I mean the black person. If they both good candidates, the thing that's gonna push me to the next level, where I draw the line is, okay, that's the black person. I'm going with the black person. So that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not gonna vote for anybody that I think is just gonna hurt me, right? But I know in most of these instances, when there's a black candidate that I've seen, the white candidate hasn't been better than them. They just haven't been better than them, and they've lost 90% of their time. So at what point do we start?
I don't disagree with that. I think you're right that white people, they have more resources to run longer, better races. And sometimes the black person is sitting right there and they are an actual benefit to the community, and they don't even get the type of screen time that they deserve. Case in point would be Cornel West, right? Like, he deserves much more screen time, should be in debate, should have been a primary candidate. And certainly I respect that. I understand what you're saying. All I'm saying is I would think about the best way to message what you're saying in a way that helps the person who really does not understand, because what you never want to do is, just because, people listen to snippets, they listen to a little bit of information, they hear you saying you're voting for everybody black, it doesn't matter to you, you with everybody black, which I've seen you write it and I've heard you say it. And then they become a demise to their own community by just siding with black people all the time, and not realizing that sometimes that black person is being paid by operatives. They're doing what them running in the race. They actually are not for the community. And you might have a white progressive candidate who really is trying to do the right thing. And we should be looking at them, but they got from you that they just should vote for black people. So I think that messaging has to be tweaked in a way where it comes across better to people who are not as politically inclined and don't understand the nuances of what you're saying. So that's the only thing that I would suggest.
No, I hear you. And I think when I distinguish between the Candace Owen types and the Daniel Cameron.
But they don't always, let me tell you something that I said the other day. When we were talking, people were online talking about Waka Flocka, and they were like, well, all of this information out here. He could just read the information. Like, don't tell me that he doesn't know because he can read. A lot of times people do not even know how to understand what they read. They don't know. Like they don't know when they read it, because I get stuff and I read it and I be going to other people, Linda or you or somebody else, like, what does this mean? Like, I think I understand it, but I'm a little confused, right? Some people don't have folks around like that. And I think intentional leadership is being able to bite size, as you used to tell me. Because remember, I would be concerned that, well, I don't speak as well as these people. I don't want to go into certain spaces. And you would say, no, the way that you are able to break down information for the person that they ain't read nothing, they don't know these words, they haven't been exposed in these ways, that is very important. So I'm saying all of that to say to you that I'm saying that I understand what's in your head, but I'm telling you that as a listener to you, someone who your leadership matters to me, it needs a little bit of tweaking so that it comes across better for a person like me or somebody who has even less information than I have, because it gives the impression that we should be willing to support bad Black people too. And I don't think that is a good idea.
That's never been my point, because when I distinguish between the bad Black people, right? So if that's what you got, I don't know how you got that, but cool. I'll do a lot better. I'm going to say, if it's not these type of individual Black people, then I'm voting with the Black people. So I'm gonna clarify. I want you to understand, if it's not the Uncle Toms, the people that we know that's stepping and fetching, the COONs, those, if it's not them, I'm with the Black people, because I understand the dynamics. I understand that for all of these years, everybody has been with them. When they do demographics, when they go and do the voting polls in certain places, they automatically, by race, they give it to the white people. They say, okay, this is populated by majority whites on this
You
area.
talking about when you mean the actual systems, like the machines, like where they put them in which communities?
They tell you where you're going. You know why? Because they understand that these white people is going to vote with that white man. And
I guess I hear what you're saying. And I do know that you're right, that voter suppression, that there is it is a thing, that the voting polls are often not situated in the best place for Black folks to get access to it, or we'll have like one polling location, which, it's like longer lines. And, when you go to the white folks in neighborhoods, it's much easier to vote. They make it much more convenient for them. So I'm not disagreeing with you about that. But I don't know that, I guess white people majority vote with their own kind. I guess that's true. But we've seen in history where white people have crossed over
one time.
tremendously.
Okay, that's
well, Barack Obama, even in New York
York
City for Eric Adams. And that's a recent case. There's been times.
You can name two in history since we've been
There's
voting.
there's been more. There's been more. Because when I think about,
Barack Obama, Eric Adams, name the other crossover.
When I think about the Congressional Black Caucus, right? There are a number of Congressional Black Caucus members who their district is not Black only. It might be a lot of Black, but it's not only Black. Just think about Hakeem Jeffries. Like, there's a lot of Black people in Brooklyn that voted for him, but there's a lot of white people there as well. And specifically, the Jewish population is significant. Hence the reason why he has such an allegiance to his Zionist friends, right? And so I'm saying that across the country, we can find examples of Black elected officials that their districts are not mainly Black, which can be problematic sometimes, because depending upon the other group of people, which is generally white folks, that has helped to elect them, then their politics start, wobbling, and they're not 100% solid on our issues. So I agree, but I'm just saying that's the thing.
You can put that on one hand, Tamika. I'm just talking about you. Like, I'm not saying because there's no absolutes. There are one or two occasions where that happens, right? But I'm just talking about of the 500 elections that we've had for city officials, 500, 1,000. You can name 5 or 6. So this is not even 1%.
Well, no, because we gotta go. We can
In
get.
New York,
We should actually come back with
I can't
hard
wait.
numbers,
I can't wait
information.
to do it
And
because
the
I've been
reason
looking it
why I
up.
think that we should be able to do that is because New York City, just in New York City alone, and it's in a number of other cities across the country, the lineup of elected officials, like basically the leadership in New York is Black folks, right? They are Black people who,
But Black
and
people,
with
Black areas.
gentrification,
If you look at where the Black people are, they are in the Black areas. They're not
but with
white
but that's what I'm saying. In New York, that's not really the case because Natasha Williams needed a lot of white people as well as Black people to get her
area.
elected.
Okay,
She has a heavy.
but I'm trying to tell you, she has a heavy Black. That is one of the strongest Black communities in where she is at. Is one.
I get it, but what I often find, and again, there are other people who are they're pollsters, so they know this information in detail. What I often find is that yes, there will be some Black people, a lot of Black people that will help to get somebody over the finish line, but then there are other interest groups, and a lot of times other people, white folks and Asian and Indian and whomever else, they don't vote at all, right, in those elections. And so the margins are very small. So but I am saying that I know that there are many places across the country where Black people, especially mayors, definitely need more than Black people in most big cities in order to win. So anyway, we should definitely, I love that.
If you look at all of those big cities, they have a big Black population. So what happens is they make their population come out because, and if you look at the votes that they have, is mainly Black people. It's not that there's no Black official that got more white votes than they got Black votes. That ain't happening.
I wouldn't say none. I don't like to speak in absolutes.
I'm willing to bet it probably didn't happen.
Yeah, I don't like to speak in absolutes because there are some Black politicians that act like white people, and that's how they got accepted to those positions. But I'm just saying,
Tim Scott might have more white people voted for him.
He got Black people too. He has Black people too. But to say that none, I don't know. But anyway, like I said, there are pollsters. There are pollsters who know the facts clear. It's not what we think. It's not like there are pollsters.
Because I'm talking about Republicans and Democrats. I've actually been studying the polls.
Like, I get what you're saying.
2 weeks, I've been studying, saying, but we have 5 Republicans, right? And you got okay. Go ahead.
But Myers, you couldn't sit here and tell me the exact numbers of who voted for them.
But I could tell you
because you don't, right? So we don't know what we don't know. And I think that the purpose of our show is to educate people, as we said, factually. So because you believe this, and I'm not saying that I totally disagree with you, I just think that there's more to it. And so I think that the best thing to do is to invite somebody who knows actual numbers and states and can do like real serious research about this before coming on the show, so they can talk about how do people vote, right? You talked about wanting to do a show on identity politics. I think that's a real good topic to figure out, like, what is the mindset and how do people vote, and like, where are some hard numbers? Because it's better than what you're saying is more than likely the case. But I think it's important to highlight that some places are not, and where are those places, so we can know what type of people are they, like what type of community were they in? Are they in middle America? Are they in just New York and like progressive, more liberal cities and states?
Just look at the Black mayors, and they in more progressive Black cities. So it's not like it's a hard thing to figure out. I'm not saying some shit that you gotta guess. When you look at Chicago, you look at New York, you look at LA, you look at the Black mayors, and you look at the population in those cities. It's not
LA doesn't have a Black mayor though. I don't think, no. Who's a Black mayor?
Lady Black mayor. They just got her.
Maybe she maybe okay, because I know there was a white mayor there.
I was just talking.
but there's so many different municipalities in LA.
So listen, we didn't get to my I don't get it this week. We'll get to it next week. You know, me and Tamika got into a debate, which is good and healthy because, you know, we're all trying to sharpen steel. So we'll get to my I don't get it next week, but I hope you enjoyed this episode. Very informative. I want you to do research. You know, these elections are very, very important, you know, and when you make your decision based on the things that you value. Don't let anybody else tell you what you should value or what you shouldn't value as somebody who's making their own decisions and their own votes. So go out, make sure that you vote, make sure that you're engaged, make sure that you're not getting fake news and listening to fake clips and listening to sound bites. Make sure that you're getting real information. And with that said, I'm not going to always be right. Tamika's not going to always be wrong, but we will both always, and I mean always, be authentic.
Peace.
That's how we own it. That's how we own it. That's how we own it. Oh, that's how we own it.
Check out the video version of TMI
every single Wednesday on iWoman.tv.
That's how we own it.